Okay, so today I want to get rid of this wire that comes down and plugs into the accessory here. And what I had done on my last truck was I opened this up and I tapped into that plug and I ran a cable and underneath here, and I put an outlet over here so that I could plug that in. And actually that's what I had used for my GPS. But I think I'm going to try the GPS, the Garmin. It only draws an amp, it says. I'm going to try this again. The last time I was using it, it didn't seem to be working well enough. It just converts 12 volts, gives you supposedly 5 volts, 3 amps max. And I tried plugging into that the last time, and I don't know whether the other, I had a TomTom I think before, and no, the Magellan, and I don't know if it just drew too much out of that. It would shut down and not work properly. So I'm going to try again. This time I'm going to plug either my camera into it or the GPS or whatever. We'll try that out afterwards. But anyways, first thing is going to be to take that console off. I got to re-add a wire to this so I can run it over to the console and tap onto that plug. So I'm going to add the wire on. That's not a big deal. I'm just going to add 3 feet of wire to that, or more, probably 4 feet. I already chopped off 6 feet, so I got lots of wire. Once I open this up, I'll show you what it looks like inside. I believe all I did last time was just, I think there's a couple screws under here, maybe a couple under here. Yeah, so there's a couple screws there, and there's at least 2 under here. So I'll have to pry that up and take those screws out and lift that console off so I can get access to the back of the accessory jack that's there. So once I get that off, I'll pull the video back up and show you how I did it and what I'm doing. Okay, so I've popped this out. There is the 2 Phillips screws under here. Then there's a 7mm, give or take here. A 7mm took it off. Bit slack in it, but might be a standard stud. And then this just pops straight up. There's a couple spots where it sits in the console. So next, I'm just going to reach around and unplug that, and then I'm going to fish my wire in underneath the dash, which is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to show that. I'm just going to start here and then get underneath the dash in here with the wires. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to undo this. Just pulls out of there nice and easy, and I'll tap on my positive and my negative right here. So just push down on that tab and that will pull out of the socket. And I'm just going to roll back some of this tape, and I'm going to live dangerously and do it live. That's up to you if you want to do that, or you can disconnect your battery and do it. So that is next. This here, I'm wondering whether this is the cable for the USB, because I'd really like to put a USB jack here, and that's empty in back, and rather than have a stupid USB cable all the way from the console, which, you know, goes up and down every time you open it, up to where my phone is, I'd love to just plug it in right here somewhere. So I'm going to look at that. The worst case is I'm going to follow that up into there. It doesn't look like there's any great spot to bring the wire back that way, because your jacks are in here, or up here I guess. So I'd like to be able to relocate that one jack for the Android Auto up towards the front. I don't know why Dodge put it way the heck in here. It's a ridiculous spot, but maybe that'll be a future project. Anyways, okay, so I'm going to fish that in and hook that on. So you can see what I've done there. I've just peeled back a bit of insulation on the black, and I've tacked this wire on it. I'm just going to put some electrical tape around that one, and then I'm going to do the same thing on that side. Be sure if you're doing with the battery hooked up that you put some tape around that. You don't want to short them together, or you'll have to find a blown fuse somewhere. Okay. Okay. So that's all done, and I got thinking, you know, with the ignition off, you haven't even got power there, so not a big deal, but I still take precautions. You're not shorting stuff out. But it shouldn't matter. So anyways, let's see what happens when we turn it on. Look at that. So I've plugged the dash cam into the little converter part, and it came right up. So hopefully that will continue to work. I don't know if plugging the Garmin in at the same time, whether it will drive them both. I might give that a try and see what happens. But for now, that's it. I'm not going to bother with the doing the USB right now. I'll just do a bit of research on that, see if that's the cable or not, and see what I can do about tapping into that. Looks like it might be a bit of a pain. I don't know where that plug's going, so figure that out. At least it's not too hard to get in here anyway, so we can pull that off at a later date. For now, it's, you know, still hanging here in the way, but we shall work on that as another project. I'm going to tidy that up, and then I've got some speakers for my radio that I want to run down in here too, so I got to see if I can loosen this off enough to get that cable through there, and run a couple of wires down through there for my speakers and the Garmin. And I'm hoping I just have to undo that screw there, and maybe I can pull that forward enough to do that. Last time I had a big enough gap there that I could pull stuff through, so hopefully I don't want to drill a hole in the console if I don't have to. I think I took this off last time to get access to that, but I'm going to try that screw this time and see what happens. Okay, so put my cable in underneath the headliner. I loosened this up enough so I can get it down into the corner there. That's plugged into my DC converter. I've got the Garmin cable coming through, and the 3 speakers for my ham radio stuff. It's all neatly tucked into here. I unscrewed all 3 of these screws to just loosen that up enough that I could pull it far enough out to sneak them in there. So that's that. Next I gotta finish running these cables all the way to the back seat. But I've got to add some length to one of these gray ones here. I had spliced some black wires onto them just to make them longer, and I pulled that off when I was pulling it out of my other truck, so I have to splice those on. And since I've got a crew cab now, I'll have to see whether they're going to be long enough to go exactly where I want, so I might have to add length to all of them. We'll see. See in a bit. There was a fair amount of extra on one of them, so it might work out. Anyways, that's it for now. I'm going to pull in this cable next for my ham radio stuff. I think I'll make a separate video on that. But there is an access hole already in this underneath the back seat. It allows you to get right out through the body without drilling. That's usually where I bring my power in, and all my antenna wires. So I've got 3 radios in this rig. I put in another adapter there because I run a GPS on one of them for APRS. So I usually have a live connection for that, because the GPS I have, you have to hit start every time it gets new power. It's a bit of a pain, but anyways, I may look at changing that. So I have killed the battery a couple times, not driving the truck enough, and the GPS sucking all the power down. Those got to run through on the cab, up the wheel well, and onto the battery. So I have to check and see whether or not they're going to be long enough too, because again, going into a different size truck, it might need an extra foot or two. Although it did come out of a crew cab before, so we'll see whether they're long enough. But I might have shortened them up when I put them in the quad. Anyways, that's it for this one, guys. I'll catch you on the next video.